Hello and welcome to Kognito Key. Today we're going to pull back the curtain on the tiny, tiny engines that power our entire digital world. We're talking about computer processors.
I mean, have you ever really stopped to wonder what makes your phone, your laptop, well, smart? From our gadgets to our cars, these little chips are the real brains behind the bytes, and today we're going to explore exactly how they work. You know, we hear people talk about the brain of a computer all the time, but what is it really? And did you know there are actually many different kinds? Let's dive in and find out.
Okay, let's start with the basics. At its very heart, a processor is a tiny digital circuit that has two key parts, and they work together in perfect harmony. First, you've got the Arithmetic Logic Unit, or ALU. Think of it as the mathematician, a super fast calculator that handles all the numbers and logic. Then you have the control unit, which is kind of like a traffic cop, directing the whole flow of data. Together, they do this constant three-step dance. They fetch an instruction, decode it to figure out what to do, and then they execute the command. This whole cycle happens billions of times a second. It's the fundamental process that literally brings your computer to life.
Now here's something interesting. We often use the words CPU and processor to mean the same thing, but that's not really the whole story. See, the CPU is definitely the star player, but it's actually part of a much bigger team of processors inside your computer, and each one has its own specialized job.
All right, so now let's meet the most common type of processor out there. You could call it the jack of all trades. These are pretty much the Swiss Army knives of the computing world. They're called general-purpose processors, or GPPs, and they're built to be super fast and versatile, so they can run everything from your web browser to really complex software. And within this big category, we find two really important players, the microprocessor and the microcontroller. Now, I know they sound almost the same, but they have some really key differences.
So a microprocessor is really just the brain, the CPU on one single chip. But a microcontroller? Well, it's like the brain with its own little body attached. It's a whole mini computer on a chip with its own memory and interfaces built right in.
And this just shows the incredible progress we've made, right? The very first microprocessor from 1971, the Intel 4004, could only add tiny numbers. Today's processors are just unimaginably more powerful. But, you know, sometimes a general-purpose tool isn't the right one for the job.
Sometimes what you really need is a surgeon's scalpel for a very specific task. And that's where specialist processors come in, like the digital signal processor, or DSP. This is the processor that makes your phone calls sound so clear, your music sound crisp, and powers amazing things like voice recognition. It's a true master at handling real-world signals like sound and video and turning them into digital information.
Okay, next up, we have another specialist, the ASIP. These processors are basically custom-built for a single mission, like controlling one specific function in a modern car. They trade away all that flexibility for incredible efficiency and a lower cost, which makes them perfect for those dedicated tasks. But what happens when even the most specialized processor just isn't enough? Well, you bring in the reinforcements. A multiprocessor system uses multiple CPUs that all share the same memory. It's like having a whole team of experts all working together to solve a complex problem way faster than any single expert ever could. So why does all this matter to you? Because these tiny brains are absolutely everywhere, shaping our daily lives in ways we might not even realize. You know that incredible speed and multitasking power you have in your smartphone? Yep, you can thank a modern, high-performance microprocessor for that. And what about the simple little display and the push buttons on your microwave? All of that is managed by a single, very cost-effective microcontroller. It's the perfect job for a tiny computer on a chip. Even your car is just packed with them. Really critical things like engine control and safety systems depend on super reliable embedded controllers, which are a tough, specialized type of microcontroller. Seriously, from our toys to our toasters, if it's programmed to do something, it's got a processor inside. And this brings us to a final thought. As these processors keep getting smaller and cheaper while becoming more and more powerful, what ordinary, everyday object do you think they're going to transform next? It's a fascinating question to think about, isn't it? Especially as our world gets smarter every single day.
If you found this explainer helpful, please do give it a like, share it with your friends, and of course, don't forget to subscribe to Kognito Key for more deep dives into the technology that shapes our world. Thanks so much for watching.